YouTube, but it appears that we are good to go. So welcome back to Armed Crossfire with SP and Gabi. We have a special guest today I'll introduce in a moment. But first, as usual, I am going to thank our sponsors, which is Garage Door Guys in KC, Brian Kerner. We had him on the show last week. Big supporter of the show. Plus, we have Arm Assassin Strength Shop, which Gabi and I are rocking the gear today. We need to come up with another contest for this month, Gabi, to run. Last month, we gave away the $50 gift or promo code to Ward Drake, and he appears to be making good use of that. He sent me some pictures, some of the stuff he was thinking about ordering. Sponsors aside, all right, we got people in the chat already. Sponsors aside, we have a Patreon page, and on that Patreon page, we have elite Patreon members that we give a shout out every week when we do the show. So the elite Patreon members, or pardon me, the alpha Patreon members. I always get those two mixed up. But the highest level is alpha. Zane William Nisley, Jeff Frank, Bruce Willis. Thank you for your support. We appreciate you. Our guest today is World Arm Wrestling League contender, superstar, Jamie Sheldon. Jamie, how's it going?
Good, guys. How you doing? Honored to be here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is going to be fun.
Jody Williams is saying I should be thrown out to NatFit, but we will definitely cover NatFit. Let's get into that. Where do you want to start? Do you want to give us the history of Jamie Sheldon?
How much time you got?
We got lots, man. We got lots of time. So why don't you give us the history of Jamie Sheldon leading up to and including how you got into the sport of arm wrestling?
Okay, so trying to think, where should we start? I guess we could start arm wrestling related, right? Since this is mainly an arm wrestling show.
Absolutely, but it's a variety show. Let's be honest.
Okay, well, I got into the sport in 2005. So prior to that, my sports background actually started when I was a kid. My dad came over from England in the 50s with several other families, and they basically brought soccer to where I live in Riverside, California, and it kind of paved the way for soccer to become something big. Kind of toot the family horn a little bit. So, we came out kicking a soccer ball. So I did that for years, played club, did basketball once, I think for one season. It was kind of like, well, I was pretty good at it, but I wasn't, very, very tall or, that gifted in basketball. So played football, but I was always into like working out. I was doing bicep curls when I was in like middle school. So that was kind of fun just to be able to have some sort of a bicep when you're a skinny guy. And got into high school. And this whole time I was arm wrestling. So ever since the 80s when I saw Over the Top, I think I was like 6 or 7, I was arm wrestling with my friends, and we would arm wrestle on lunch tables, just like every arm wrestler started. When I got to college, I was going to bars and arm wrestling people there. Turns out that could be pretty dangerous because if you piss somebody off who's Ryan's size, then, that could be bad. So I didn't compete until 2005. I was watching, I think it was ESPN in 2004, and I remember seeing Ron Bath, Bill Sinks, Mike Solaris. Those are the three that stuck out in my brain. And I was like, well, this is pretty big, let me look more deeper into it. So in 2005, I ended up going to an event where I got to meet Alan Fisher and Luke Kent, Harold Ryden, Simon. I even saw Bill Berzink. That was the only time I've ever seen Bill Berzink. And he actually won his class. And then in the overall, he beat, I don't know if you guys remember Brian Bilby.
Yep.
I do, yep.
Yeah, he beat Brian. And then the weight classes came down. Alan Fisher actually beat Bill Berzink. And then I got to arm wrestle Alan Fisher because I was in the amateur 176 and Alan was in the pros, and they mixed the overall with pros and amateurs. So I went undefeated in the amateurs and got spanked by Alan. And that was like my first, wow. And I recognized him from the movie. and he just had that small little part and over the top where, you know, he's got the Alan Fisher face. But I remembered that. Like, that kind of stuff sticks out in your brain. It's kind of like why – I mean, I don't know where I knew Bill Brzezink's face from, but he just looked familiar when I saw him. And then people were telling me, oh, it's John Brzezink's brother. And I remember hearing John Brzezink's name. And then – so that's kind of like my introduction to the sport, you know, and meeting Luke Kent. And we're good friends to this day.
Right on.
Yeah. Luke's actually the one who convinced me to do amateur. I was going to go do the pros like everybody, right? You know, you want to go win some money. And Luke said, don't. Just go amateurs. And that's probably the best decision I ever made, because I would have been in that class with Luke, Alan, Simon, Harold. That would have been ugly. Somebody just starting out, you know.
So you fast forward, how do you end up getting into the World Arm Wrestling League?
Well, I've actually been lucky in my career as far as being involved in every major production. I think I touched on that on Facebook. UAL, of course. And it actually helped to be living where I live in Southern California, when the guy who owns the league is, you know, 30 minutes down the road. That didn't hurt. But am I the best arm wrestler? No. Can I sell the sport? Absolutely. So maybe that's why the WAL keeps me around. I'm not as charismatic as a Jeff Hale or as talented as Giannis. So I don't really know why I'm still involved, but hey, I'm going to run this until they get rid of me. I'm going to keep showing up, you know. And I think I'm actually kind of reaching, I don't want to say a peak, but I seem to be getting better, and I'm almost 40. So, you know, maybe I have something up my sleeve in my 40s for the league. We'll see if it sticks around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the really odd thing about arm wrestling, is the guys seem to peak more in their 40s than they do in the earlier years. Gabi, would you agree with that?
I wouldn't say 40s, but 40 or getting into 40. But absolutely, I'm not shocked at all that Jamie's getting stronger as he hits 40. If someone tells me they've been in the sport for 25 years and they're at their strongest at 48, 49, I don't know about that. But heading into 40, 41, 42, 43, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. Well, what was the last match you had in World Arm Wrestling League?
Alan Fisher.
And you won that match.
Yeah, and I live an hour and a half away from Alan Fisher, so I'd see him everywhere, you know, in my 15 years. So if you can imagine, for 12, 13 years, he was beating me every time. And I think, well, kind of flash back a little bit, back to your original WAL. How did I get into that? I arm wrestled at 150 pounds at the very last big UAL event. And then a week later, I drove to Vegas, stepped on the scale holding a beer at 157. And I pulled I think it was the regionals for 2015 WAL, when everybody was.
When there was like 3,000 arm wrestlers in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I ended up at 157 pounds. I ended up taking fourth. I had to arm wrestle Alan there. I lost to him. Most of my losses in WAL were to Alan or Luke. It's crazy. Like, and I live in California with these guys.
Yeah. Those regionals were nuts, but go on.
Yeah, stacked. There was just so much going on. Lost my train of thought. Where were we going with that?
You were talking about, you're touching on how you got into it. You went for UAL at a 150, weighed in 157 with a beer in your hand at WAL. And
right. Yeah. So, you know, I managed to get by, I guess, my first several years of my career with just, you know, that high top roll fast. If I got into a grinder, I was going to lose. Didn't know how to arm wrestle somebody with a larger hand. Didn't really know the strap. Never went inside, even though I do have a strong bicep and I do have a lot of side pressure if I can engage it properly. So I guess I didn't really, up until pulling Alan in this WAL match, I had some success recently with him. I think I got a couple wins on him before that. And it was him taking my hand and me just pushing him to the pad because I'm physically stronger than him. But I seriously went back to the drawing board to learn more about the strap and how to apply it, especially with somebody with a bigger hand like that. And it paid off. So, but obviously you got to be strong to do it too. So got to get stronger and then got to get smarter. And then it actually worked out for me in this last match with him. But up until then, he was just destroying me. He would just take my hand and then I didn't know what to do. It's crazy. So you do got to be stronger and smarter to be more successful.
Growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have a match coming up, and this is a weird one for me. And I'll tell you why. Like, you're still planning on pulling, like the plan is that you're pulling Wilmot at 6:01. Is that correct?
That's still the info that I'm receiving. Yeah.
The reason it's a weird one for me is because his focus seems to have shifted off of you and onto Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And the feud over there is building, and he's almost looking past your match.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he's in the position that he should be looking past Jamie Sheldon.
Mm-hmm.
You want to touch on that at all?
Absolutely. I got a lot of respect for Adam. He's battling a lot more than just the match itself. You know, contrary to how he acts, he's not as angry as people may think. But he does genuinely dislike certain people, and I'm not one of them. He actually likes me. So I think he's having a rough time getting fired up about me because he doesn't hate me. And I'm going to continue to use that to my advantage. So I'm going to continue to be nice to him up until we get to the table. And he's going to be scrounging around to try to stay angry because he's got to prove it to himself. He's got to prove it to everybody else because he cares what people think. Whereas I tell people don't read the comments, right? I've told RVJ that. I've told Michael Todd that. And those guys get the worst of it, right? But Adam's right there with him. He gets a lot of hate, but he gets a lot of respect too. But he genuinely doesn't like Tom Holland, and for whatever their reasons are. And yeah, that feud has actually provided a job security type of situation for Adam. So I think he's trying to prove to the league that he should be there. And unfortunately, yeah, he is overlooking me to sustain that. So that's going to come back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah. We had a comment. Jason Merlot says, the anger is part of his character that he has built. It's forced just for show, it seems. Well, I don't know about that, but we'll see. He's put himself in a bit of a precarious situation. So I don't know that it's going to matter what the outcome of your and his matches are. Mm-hmm. I think it's more likely that he gets the match with Tom Holland if you beat him, if I'm being completely honest. Because if you beat him, there's the question of what do you now do with Adam Wilmot? And there's your answer. If he manages the win, then there's a slew of guys that are like at the top of the food chain that he could go against. Now with you, I think moving past Adam there's a lot of interesting matches out there for you as well. And some of them will be repeats of matches we've seen in the past and possibly with different outcomes. Mm-hmm. But I mean, you got a game plan for this guy, or are you going to just go in and do what you do?
Yeah. I mean, we all know where Adam's going to go. I just arm wrestled the guy with the largest hand and probably the largest hand in the class. I wouldn't say the strongest hand. I wouldn't say the strongest rotation, but I don't think Adam has a large hand. I've shook his hand before, but I've never arm wrestled him. So I don't think but maybe he has great rotation, which is fine. I've lost my hand in matches and I've pushed through it. I've done it to Corey Miller. I've done it to Luke Kent. I've done it to Alan Fisher. So a very strong top roll, unless you flash me, I'm not worried about it. If you can flash pin me in a top roll, that's probably your best bet if you're going to top roll me. Or if you just got this crazy European style hook, that's a problem too. So I know where he's going to go. I plan to go straight at him. I don't know how it's going to feel in the setup though. Like I didn't expect in my first match with Alan to flop his hand in the strap. I expected him to take my hand and I'd have to push through him, kind of like the third match. So I'll kind of see where it goes, but I mean, I plan to just drive it straight at him. I have a lot more confidence in my hook and my side pressure, and initiating that. I've for once I've actually trained to initiate a hook. And out here in Southern California, and you guys have been arm wrestling longer than me, there's nobody out here that hooks or that can teach you how.
Vasquez?
Well, Vazgen now, yeah. Ever since, but before he came out here in 2006, you know, it was all top rollers. You know, you had Harold Ryden, Scott Partington, Alan Fisher, John Woolsey. You guys remember him?
Yep.
Look at Clint Eastwood. Yeah, he's from the 70s, 80s. I mean, he taught us how to do kind of multiple things, but he even had that kind of tricep engaged top roll, which it took me forever to try to learn how to do that, but almost like a high hook, but nobody really hooked. So we didn't know how to engage it. And then when Vazgen came over, he kind of took us to a new level. It's like, wow, this is that European style. We are way behind as far as the lightweights go. We need to like step up our game, and we've slowly closed that gap. You know, so I plan to hook Adam, and if my top roll feels fine with his, you know, I'm going to try that too. So I've got a couple options there.
Yeah, I like that matchup. You're both versatile, and I think you're a more balanced at this stage in your career. You're a more balanced arm wrestler than he is, which wouldn't matter if he was stronger than you. But I don't believe he's stronger than you, which is why I have you as a favorite. I'd kind of like to see him win because he's a weird person in my books, and like it's because he's so genuine and vulnerable, and demonized. I have trouble not, and in a way he's very, very authentic. I know he has the angry bird persona, but that's almost like I don't know. It's an obvious cover up, but I think he has a lot of authenticity, and I find myself rooting for him. But I think you have the stronger arm. I think your hands are very comparable. I'm not saying yours is stronger, but I'm pretty sure his isn't either. I think hand size is equal. I just think you have a little bit more arm. Well, maybe more than little, and I think that'll be the difference. I don't think he can top roll you, and I don't think he can beat your arm. Yeah, I have you as a favorite, but it's an interesting matchup for sure. I do like the matchup. I don't know, I just have you as a favorite. And in terms of him and Tom, I have him getting blasted, but that's if that even happens, but that's way in the future.
Tom, I respect that, Robbie. Thank you for that. Tom is a strange beast, and I've told him this before. I don't arm wrestle too many people taller than me at 165, 170 pounds. I mean, I'm not very tall, but I'm 6 foot, which is tall enough. But when you get somebody who's 6'3" that can drive forward that far and rotate his hand around and do it fast, like I've never experienced that before in my life. So I was very unprepared for that match. Do I think he's stronger than me? Maybe in areas, but I don't really feel there's too many lightweights that are physically stronger than me in gym sense,
No.
Except for the Tonys and people like that, whatever, you know. But to feel something like that was very, very humbling. And I have a ton of respect for Tom, and he's very good at what he does. So if Adam has to pull him, you know, Adam has to be on point and not – he's got to be fast too, because Tom will take what he wants immediately.
Yeah. Tom reminds me of a poor man's Kevin Bongart. I mean, tall,
Right.
Very lanky, looks like a fucking top roller, but has a incredible sticking hook, and he's got a good hand. And that I think is a nightmare to Adam, because I think Adam needs to flash him to win that match. He needs to flash him. And I don't see that happening. And Tom has the stronger arm, and Adam's an aggressive arm wrestler, but Tom's even more aggressive in terms of getting what they want on the setup, from what I've seen. So that's a bad matchup. But I don't think it's about the matchup with those two. I think it's more about the online feud, because the matchup doesn't leave much for the imagination. I think it's one-sided.
It's very exciting hype, though, isn't it?
It is, for sure. Oh yeah, I love that shit. You know me, I love that shit. Both going at each other. I love to see guys do that. But yeah, in terms of actual ability and strength, I think Tom's one full tier above Adam. I have Adam as a 3, Tom's a 4. You're damn near a 4. So I just think Adam, and I love the guy. I just think he.
You want to see him do well, right? You want to see him succeed. That's the crazy part.
Yeah.
You like the guy to an extent, you know.
I mean, you want to see him do well in life. You want to see him do well on the arm wrestling table. But sometimes, people are just try to reach for too much, and I think that's what he's doing. But I mean, he's not. I mean, I think he was out of the match with Jeff, although the optics say different, but the results say different. But Anyway, we'll see. But I wish him the best, and I'm happy that he just has opportunities for Wall. I mean, just the fact that he's been given a second or even third, no, it's a second opportunity in an elite professional league like that is a I'm happy for him in that respect, regardless of the outcome.
He delivered that first match with Jeff as far as, well, I mean, he called me, I think the night that he got offered the match, he called me and said, hey, I got offered the match with Jeff Hale. I said, well, this is your redemption because you done pissed the league off. So, you know, take this, run with it, and perform. You know, nobody's expecting you to win this.
No.
And that's the reality, but you might shock the world. Either way, deliver. And he thanked his grandma on TV. How do you not? He's not the angry bird.
No.
But hey, when you get him going, though, he is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Jody Williams made a prediction. He said Jamie beats Adam, then Adam buys NatFit products.
Yeah, you know what? That's the thing. I can totally see it because even when you beat Adam, just the fact that he's going to war with you, it seems to be very bonding for him. I mean, arm wrestling for him, I think, is a very it's a big part of his life emotionally, and I think he bonds with a lot of people. And I definitely would see him turning around and buying a shitload of products. It's definitely his, you know, he's not a hateful guy, which is why his facade is ironic. But I think he's a great guy. He means well.
Yeah.
Well, speaking in NatFit, what do you do, Jamie? What is your profession?
See the shirt?
Sup, Lord.
Yeah, I slang powders. No, I've been in. Well, like we were talking before the show started, Ryan. My path was, I was a poli-sci law major, was getting my master's in national security, and when all this happened, the 9/11 happened right around that time, and I was set. I had a tentative path was to go military as an officer and kind of follow that route and see where that took me and discover some politics and things like that as well. But when all that happened, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go to the gym. So I got in the gym business.
Nice.
Started, you know, as a trainer and then managing gyms. And then I was selling fitness equipment for a while and then got into supplement game. And I figured, you know what? Our network goes worldwide. Why work for somebody when I have the tools and the network to grow my own business? So that's why I started NatFit, because, you know, why not go work for yourself? I've invested 20 years of relationships and network, and I've got enough expertise. And I didn't have a business degree, but luckily I have people I know that own their own businesses that have kind of guided me. So I took it and ran with it, man. I mean, I wouldn't suggest starting a supplement company ever unless you're one, rich, rich to start, or two, incredibly famous. Because if you have 100 million followers on Instagram, and if 10% of them are following, and then you get like 1% of those buying from you, you're doing very, very well. So it's not that hard to believe that the Kardashians can be billionaires when they've got that many followers, right?
Right.
So, and we're nowhere near that, by the way. So I figured let's do something. Arm wrestling is kind of the core because that's where my network came from, as far as abroad. And then let's see if we can grow something. And the people that I've talked to about this in depth, like I have so many plans for arm wrestling. If we can get this thing rolling to where I think it can go, and we're actually on that path. And imagine a homegrown supplement company that's sponsoring arm wrestling abroad. That's crazy when you think about what could happen. So those are kind of like my goals. But the main goal is to never go work for somebody ever again.
Yeah, I kind of like that goal too. That's been mine for a while.
Yeah.
But I've seen the model of people that try to tap into the arm wrestling industry or arm wrestling group, the network, through supplements, but they always take the lazy approach. And I'm guilty of that myself, is trying to sling someone else's stuff either through multi-level marketing or something like that, trying to get into tap into the arm wrestling market. But your company, I've seen it more and more over the years organically. How close are you to launching in Canada?
I knew this would come up.
Is this a segue to a potential partnership with Ryan? Nice.
Well, Oh man, you guys brought up two things that I'm working on right now. Ryan Bowen and I have some plans as far as branching out. He's let's face it, he's brilliant as far as marketing. So kind of going back a bit, how I started this is I since I couldn't physically be in Florida, Boston, places like that, I'm in California. I provided opportunities for people to own their own company. So this wasn't multi-level. It was, hey, you guys invest, you guys run your own ship, you sell your stuff, you don't report to anybody, you just order product through corporate, which is me, and we get it to you, and then you guys sell it. So I provided those opportunities the first couple of years for people all around. Like Jake Smith is one who's taken it and ran with it like crazy out here in Southern California. And we're an hour and a half away from each other, and we're both very, very successful.
So it's almost like a franchise opportunity in a sense.
Yeah, we're calling them licenses, similar to franchises, just different tax, state to state logistics. But so that's kind of how I modeled the business to start, and I kept all the digital rights in the agreement in case we wanted to tap into an Amazon or something like that. But recently, we've decided to move into the digital and giving some of the territory owners that are very, very successful, like a Jake Smith, and even in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Do you guys know Carl Seguin? He's an arm wrestler out there. He's been doing very well out there in Louisiana selling our stuff. And so basically these guys are going to have their own websites. My website's going to be moved into the e-commerce platform with Ryan blasting it too. And my ultimate goal with that was to have Ryan, he's got the whole Australian platform just sitting there. I'm like, hey man, it's easy for me to get product to Australia as opposed to Canada. It's so hard to get stuff into Canada, and I'm just realizing that. So I can go all the way across the world easier than I can get it into Canada. So I think the ultimate goal for Ryan and me is to help each other grow, and then he's going to help grow the business here in the States through his tools and his marketing, and then I'm going to try to twist his arm a little bit as far as like selling it out there and stocking it in Australia. But yes, my other area that I'm focused on is Canada, and I think you guys have an inside track, because I know at least Ryan speaks to one of my guys out there who's interested.
Yeah, without disclosing much, because I'm just kind of on the cusp of this, but yeah, I'm looking forward to any opportunities that present themselves.
Yeah, we've got a couple areas out there, and guys that are they run businesses but they're engulfed in the arm wrestling community, which is important, and I think they can do amazing things. So we're like right there. In fact, I got to have a conference call with these guys pretty soon here, but what we're going to do is have it manufactured there in Canada.
So that's the key, actually. Yeah, getting manufacturing here so there's no cross borders.
Yep.
There you go. Perfect.
So as long as it's got our name on it and it's the exact way that I want it made, they can take it and run with it.
Right on. So Billy Berger asked a pertinent question. How is the coronavirus affecting NatFit?
Well, my sales haven't dropped. I don't have a storefront. We don't do storefronts because everything's moving online, so it's just a waste of rent. And part of my model, company model is, we deliver locally and we ship, obviously, but I haven't really noticed a major effect by it. Some of my other territories have, but we're still doing well. So I wouldn't say the supplement game has been affected. At least
I would have thought your sales would have went up.
In some areas it has, like fruits and greens, things like that. People want to take better care of themselves. Those sales skyrocketed. Joint supports. I mean, people are actually. It took a few weeks, but people decided to. Oh wow, I need to take better care of my health. Better health.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, the sales have went up in those areas. Yeah.
Nice.
So we're not really feeling an effect by it.
Nice.
Well, what do you want to touch on next, Jamie? We can start. We touched on the state of the lightweight division, but do we want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, we can. Lightweights. Oh man, just WAL in general, or
Well, we can talk across the pond too, but then it gets into some pretty deep topics that could lead us for hours of discussion. Who is the? Let's talk in hypotheticals here. So let's assume that you're going to win the match with Wilmot. Now, not to be insulting, but in a hypothetical situation, who is next on the list for you?
I've got scores to settle with several guys. Jeff Hale, good friend of mine. I would love another shot with Jeff. And I think that is probably further down the road. I'd be honored if they would, and grateful if I could have that opportunity again soon. When I attacked Jeff, and Jeff's another one that couldn't get fired up with me because we're friends. So he could, if you guys notice, he wasn't yelling and screaming, pointing fingers in my face because we're friends. He's another one that gets fired up prior to and will show you during the match. I think he struggled a bit as far as turning it on for me. And I went in there with a memory of 6 years prior where I met up with him in Nationals, and he hooked me and just completely turned my wrist around and slammed me to the pad. And I was like, okay, he's incredibly fast, incredibly strong, so I need to hit sideways as hard as I can. I don't know why I chose to do that, but and people always say, don't go sideways with Jeff. He's too strong. I'm like, no, I'm bigger. I'm stronger. I'm going to go through him. So I did that, and usually I'm fine. If I can get all the way to where I need to be, I can come up behind my tricep, and I'm fine, even if someone were to take my hand. But I got just out of position enough to where he stopped at an inch or two from the pad, and I gasped, and I couldn't stand up. I couldn't move. I was pretty much stuck. And your ego starts to set in. You're like, no, I can't let up. I need to try to pin him. And I was completely gassed after that first match. Lesson learned, probably should have went back a bit or changed things. So I would love another shot at Jeff, and I would attack him completely different. But he's a different beast now too. So there's no guarantees on how that match would go for me. But I would love to have it again. There's obviously no pressure there when you pull somebody who's beat you before. I'd like to pull Luke Kent again. He's beat me more than anybody in the WAL, just because at every regional I had to face him at some point. And if you look at my win-loss record with WAL, I've got way more losses because in the finals and in the semifinals, they were always best of three. So I'd lose to these guys twice. So that added up every time. And it was always to Luke Kent or Alan Fisher. So I'd like to pull Luke again if he's still involved.
Yeah, that's the question about Luke. Is he going to be involved?
Yeah, and he's wondering the same thing. He'll text me, and he's sending them messages saying, hey, am I involved? I need to know. That way I can plan my year, because he basically just wants to arm wrestle. So, he's trying to find out if he's still in their good graces.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, although
we'll see him again.
They have shown in the past that they can be very forgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Gabi,
the roster is not big enough for them to stand on principle. Adam slammed Steve Kaplan. He returned, and Luke's a lot more talented. So we'll eventually see Luke. The question is, I think Luke would probably have to reach them and maybe apologize or whatever, much like Adam, I'm sure, did. But once that's done, I can't see them saying no. He has a good following. He's talented. Pound for pound, right-handed, he's as good as anyone in North America when he's focused and motivated. So and every there's not one weight class for Wall where they don't need help in roster. They need in terms of depth. The quality's there, but in terms of depth, we can't keep seeing the same matches over and over again. So
right.
I'm confident you'll see him again.
Somebody else I'd like to arm wrestle down the road. I'd have to have at least 3 or 4 matches before this probably, but I've pulled Sam Harris a couple times, and I pulled Sam at the Arnold several years ago, and he took my hand, and this was after I had like a 30-second hook match with Bosgan, and then another hook match with a South Korean, and I lost to Bosgan. Funny, I travel all the way to the Arnold to lose to Bosgan twice, right? And he lives an hour away from me. Crazy. But so Sam took my hand, and we were in the strap, and I was able to tricep him down and beat him. And this is when I realized Sam Harris is coming up. This guy's going to be one of the best. And shortly after that, he did prove that to be one of the best lightweights. We met up in the UAL, and he beat me in a super match that they did in Vegas. Beat me like 6 rounds. We were both 150 pounds. But I think now, and this is just me thinking outside the box, I think I have the tools to give him a tough – because not to say he's a one-trick pony, but he does do the same thing. He relies on his hand, dumped wrist, in the strap. Now, you get him in WAF setup with Jeff Hale, might be a little bit different story in that matchup, right? But he knows how to pull WAL style, and he has the tools to be successful there. But I think I could give him a little bit more than he thinks, or that most people would think. I think it would be interesting, or he might just blow me out of the water. Who knows? But at some point, I'd like to pull Sam Harris. And I do have scars on my hand from when he dug his fingernails in. I don't know if you guys can see. Well, you probably can't see them there, but I have permanent scars from when Sam Harris dug his fingernails into my hand. So that's a reason enough to have revenge on somebody, right?
Wow.
All right. You want to go through your list here, Jamie? Let's touch on some of these things. How to out-angle a 230-pound guy at 180?
Well, stand on the outside, right? Mike Ayala taught us that. You never get in the middle.
Never in the middle.
Just like that video that Giannis did with Jeff Hale, and you got Jeff in the middle in this chair, and then these guys look like giants. And I actually photoshopped Jeff to be like 10 times smaller. And I'm like, you never sit in the middle. You got to be on the outside so you look bigger. You know? Yeah, that was just a kind of a running joke, but
right on. Why there are only 2 Sith?
Huh.
Tell me about that.
Well, are you guys Star Wars fans?
Not as deep as a lot of people, but I do watch the movies.
Yeah. Well, that's another running joke that Jeff Hale and I have, because we're both nerds when it comes down to it. You know, we're both Star Wars geeks, and we have this Darksiders thing going. And he even wanted to pitch that to Kaplan as far as like teams or like groups. You know, down the road, you can have different groups, and we be the Darksiders. You know, even though people probably wouldn't, consider me like the bad guy or the villain. But if you watch Star Wars, the guy who's the villain started like a cool, chill, but he was a politician. So he had some underlying agendas, and he's also my favorite character in any movie ever. So that's why you guys see me post about him all the time, because you never know what's really happening, right? Not that I'm like that, but yeah, I'm kind of a big Star Wars geek. So
well, now we kind of have questions about you, and we're going to be very careful. How terrifying Ryan Espy must have been in his fight career. That was on your list.
Yeah, when you told me that you fought, I mean, you're a very nice guy, but I've met you in person. You're a big guy, so I can just imagine you being very terrifying as a fighter. I wouldn't want to fight you.
I'd fight him. He's a big baby.
I'll knock Gabi into next week. Let's talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about this because it's fight day. It's fight day, and we have not seen the UFC or boxing or anything for a long time. So we also see all this stuff about Eddie Hall having a boxing match with Hafthor. And they both look terrible. They both look awful in their sparring.
Brutal.
And you see a guy like Mike Tyson at 50-something hitting the mitts like he could still be a killer. Let's talk hypotheticals here. Like, anybody in the World Arm Wrestling League want to put together a exhibition match, boxing, with a couple of arm wrestlers? Who would you want to see?
Well, Jake's
right now.
We have this Man Up Nat Fit Promotions thing, which we haven't ran with it yet, but our goal, we want to do some arm wrestling stuff, but why not do some fighting too? So we could, Jake even was thinking about, we could get something rolling and people can come fight, and we could have the league, and I don't know where we'd get the funds to pay people, and I don't know, I don't even know the legalities behind all that, but we know people that do. But like we were talking about earlier, and I even touched on it on Facebook, most of those arm wrestlers would never fight. Even those tough guys, they wouldn't fight.
I mean, a 4-round
It goes down
boxing
to
match.
it, there's like 1%. And, Ryan, you're like one of the 1%. You've done it. But most of these guys, they just talk. They're not really as tough as they make themselves out to be. And they wouldn't want to lose because then they lose their credibility as tough. You know what I mean?
True that.
I got a hypothetical for you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Speaking of MMA and arm wrestling, who wins an MMA match in an octagon with refs? Between Jake Smith. Now, Jake Smith can be on as much cocaine as he wants versus Tom Nelson, but Tom Nelson has to be sober. Who wins that match? Who wins that fight?
Oh, shit. Well, Tom Nelson's a wrestler, right? Doesn't he have the wrestling background? I know Jake does mainly stand-up. I would say I'd have to, and I love Jake. I just saw him like 2 hours ago. I'd have to give the nod to Tom Nelson just because he's a bigger guy and he has the wrestling experience, if I'm not mistaken.
But you don't think having withdrawal symptoms from being sober might affect his fighting skills?
It might. Is he sober?
He's never fucking sober.
Yeah, he's a character. He's one of the first guys I ever met in the sport, too. First thing he ever told me was I lost because I was stupid. I was like, whoa. Okay.
Here's what I got an opinion about your hypothetical, Gabi. I got to tell you this. I think Jake Smith wins that fight, and here's why. Tom Nelson hasn't been in really good shape, I think, cardio-wise, in a long time. And a wrestler needs to maintain a pace that might take him right out of that fight. So I think as long as he weathers an initial ground and pound storm for a couple of minutes, well, Gabi just dropped off. He'll be back. But I think Jake can eventually get back on his feet, whether it's at the end of the round, and then it's all Jake.
Yeah. One thing I know about Jake is he's like Rocky, where he just keeps coming at you. I watched one of Jake's fights, and he was taking some shots, and he would not go down. He's one of those guys that he's going to keep coming at you till you kill him. Which, I even said earlier, he's kind of a psychopath in that sense, and he gets off on it. Like, he's one of those guys you want on your side. So he will keep coming at you until you kill him. That's just how he is, or knock him out, which I guess you have to have that when you're a fighter. Yeah.
Hey, I'm throwing it out there. I would do a boxing match with any of the WAL top heavyweight guys for fun. 4-rounder. Why not? So the next subject, hey?
That's crazy. That's crazy too. When you think about it, like who on that list would be a good matchup?
Ryan and Devin.
As far as the fight goes in the super heavyweights.
Ryan and Devin.
Yeah.
Who?
Devin.
Ryan
Michael Todd can't throw a straight front punch because his arm doesn't fully extend, so he can't lock out his elbow.
You can do those hurricane kicks, right? Those spinning kicks.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. Fancy, but unless you're Uriah Hall, you don't usually have any success with those kind of kicks. And even when you do, it's once 10 years ago, and people still talk about it. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I'd be anxious to see what kind of hand-to-hand combat Devin has. I mean, the guy's, military guy. And I joke around about this, and I don't know for certain, but anybody who's probably been in combat and might have killed somebody with their bare hands is a scary individual. So I would take a military guy and a guy who's had fight experience, which in the arm wrestling community, there's only a handful of you guys that have either fight or military. And if you have both,
it's an interesting to take guys out of their element and put them together in a completely different arena. I think the Eddie Hall versus Hafthor match, I'm going to watch it if it happens for sure, but it's going to be the worst boxing match in the history of boxing.
That's a match.
Yeah, nobody wants to get punched. Those guys don't want to get punched. So
for both of them, because they'll both. No.
We're losing Gabi's audio a little bit here.
And you don't want to see, as general aftars that hate each other. We're talking about two. Sorry. Any better? No?
Yeah, a little bit better for the audio side. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, so they're both two of the strongest men on earth, and I don't know if they want to go into a different realm to submarine their credibility, but whatever.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think now that Thor has beaten the deadlift record, do you think Eddie will still agree to this match with RVJ? Because now he has to go beat that record. Arm wrestling is going to help his deadlift.
I don't believe that he's going to try to
right?
take that record back. No, I don't think
You
so.
don't think so?
I think the days of Eddie, like if you watch like the aftermath of that deadlift when Eddie broke that record and what it did to him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my cat's going nuts at the window. I just don't see it happening. He said it's not going to happen, and I think Neil confirmed that. I think he still takes the arm wrestling match. And I mean, it's a significant
I think the only way he
weight.
takes that arm wrestling match. Yeah. I think the only way he takes that arm wrestling match is
Good for us.
He's done with strong man and weightlifting.
Yeah. Well, consider Eddie Hall in his everyday training lifts more than 1%. Like he's in the top 1% of the top 1% of strength competitors. Never mind the general population, but to get to that next level, there's things he needs to do that I just don't think he's willing to do anymore. He's kind of taking care of his health. And then you have guys like another bodybuilder just passed away at the age of 30. So Luke Sando passed away. And we have guys just, I think, being more conscious of what they're doing to themselves and how much they can potentially shorten their life. Like he had the record, it stands. All records eventually get broken. Yeah, I think you should move on.
Yeah.
So we got another thing here, Jamie. You once beat Corey Miller in consecutive shot/hook event. Tell me about this.
That was just a lie. Most of that stuff I posted on that was just crazy talk, just to get people to chime in to see if I was serious. No, do I think I'll beat Corey in a shot hook match?
What is a shot hook match?
I don't think Corey's. Well, you take a shot, you go into a hook. Take another shot, go into a hook. Maybe with a minute rest in between.
The World Arm Wrestling League rules, I think I would be the hammer holder right now.
Yeah, I think Joel Hudick would win the middleweights. He's a drinker.
Actually,
that'd be interesting.
Evan Burgoyne might take the title right. He might be the man.
Oh yeah.
Gabi, you still with us? He's a little frozen there. Yeah. We'll keep going. But the next one was for him, so I'll put that to the end. Now he's dropped right off the thing. I was going to ask him about why he doesn't troll you so much anymore, but
he never really did. He never really did a lot, and I see that he picks on certain people, and because he can get a rise out of them. But I think he didn't get a rise out of me one time, and it's just been cool ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, here we go again. See, Jamie, I applaud that you have probably the best connection and audio of anyone that we've had on the show so far. And the last week was not the case. But here we have Gabi. He's dropping off all the time, but he's back in now.
Yeah.
What's happening out there?
I don't know.
Okay.
No, I have no idea.
So how come you don't troll Jamie as much anymore?
I don't know if I ever trolled Jamie that much, but I could tell you with Jamie, he doesn't bite. So I try to troll everyone, and whether they bite or they don't. But usually the guys that don't bite, I leave them alone because there's no fun in it. And Jamie, I don't think he's ever reacted to any of my troll attempts. So after a while, I just give him enough credit and respect, and I just leave him alone. Well, I try. Vile.
think it was
All right.
cutting out, but I think I got enough of that to hear. That was a respectful thing there.
Yeah. I don't know if
Audio.
my audio.
Yeah. You're not feeding the trolls, so you get left alone.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
My feathers don't get ruffled.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Gabi, what else you got? Because we can go into the comments section and start taking some start taking some questions. Jason Merlot says somebody is trolling Chris's internet connection.
Mm-hmm.
You're being hacked.
Yeah.
Any questions from you, Gabi?
Yeah, I got one question for him. He's talking about pulling Jeff and other pullers in Wall, which is ultimately a 165 class for him. But last I heard, he was up around 190. So my question to him is, can he still get down to 165?
Yeah, I was actually right now I'm between 182 and 185. I like to sit heavy because I'm a gym guy. That's just my thing now. Ever since I got out of UAL, there was no reason to stay light. So 165, 170. All my matches I've competed in with WAL's super matches have been at 170. So I can train at 180, 185. So I like to sit there. And you're right. Over the holidays, I did hit 200 just because I wanted to see if I could do it because I've never been 200 pounds. And I ate my way to 200 pounds. But I lifted heavy, but my body fat wasn't low. I mean, it was fun. But I generally I try to sit about 185. When they canceled the when they canceled the WAL 601, I was already starting my decline. So I was already 180, sub 180, working my way down. And it was like a month out. So yeah. As soon as they announce this officially, which I think it's going to be in July, right? If this still holds water, I'll probably maintain 185 for a while and then plan my descent. Yeah, I can make 170, 165. It's been a long time since I've been that low, but it's only 5 extra pounds. As long as I have enough time, I can still do it.
What if have you entertained the notion of moving up and staying up in the next weight class?
I don't think I'd perform well at all. I don't know how Chris Chandler did it. Like, the guy was my size, and he managed to gain 100 pounds in several years, and he's hanging with the big boys. I don't have the hand for the middleweights. It might take years for me to build the horsepower to even have a few matches. Like, I think if they had a 185 class where I think Justin Bishop, Craig Toulier, Doug Ehrlich, these guys could sit right there, not have to pull 205 pounders, and not have to cut too much weight. I think that would be a fun class to be in. But even with those guys, I think there's just a little bit too much horsepower or hand there. So I think 170, I've been blessed with these thin genetics. I can still make that weight and still feel healthy if I have enough incentive. So middleweight, definitely not a 200. That's just scary.
Yeah, you put that in perspective. So correct me if I'm wrong, it's 165, 205 and over?
I've heard rumors that at least with the lightweights, they've had matches at 165 up to 176. And I don't know about the middleweights because I don't ask anybody's personal business, but I personally have competed at 170. I know a couple of those matches were 165. Did they make Tony cut to 165 to pull Sam?
They did. That's why he had so much trouble and had to back out.
See, I don't understand that because I was heavier, they allowed me to be 170, but Tony sits heavier than me, right? I don't know. But Alan sits light like Sam. So wouldn't they have made Alan and me pull 165? But we pulled 170.
That is a massive weight class to have in the middle there, and they have done some catch weights, but I think if it's a title match, they have to stick to that exact weight. So at 170, you might be at a catch weight,
right?
Which is interesting in itself.
I think I pulled Jeff at 172 also.
Yeah. And I think Adam weighs around 180, 185. So I think you and him, coming down, maybe you don't have to go to 165. Maybe you can agree to 170. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's looking good. He's looking pretty fit. I mean, that's – I used to think that being lean was good, but the power and the endurance isn't there when you get too lean. So I'm sitting with a little bit of extra body fat, more power, because I don't need to be lean anymore. You know, he's a single guy. He wants to go out and get girls, whatever he's doing. I'm married now. I can sit with some body fat on me and feel healthy and strong. My wife seems to like it.
Yeah. James Stewart says, what's more likely to happen? Gobby does the King's move or Devin wins Lottie?
Fuck. Not even close. Not even close.
You're doing the King's move?
Are you fucking nuts? They could light me on fire before I do that.
So it's more likely that Devin wins Lottie, but also probably unlikely.
There's more likelihood that Devin flies to Mars and lives there for the rest of his life than me doing the King's move. I mean, there's a zero chance in that. They can put a gun to my head. I'm still not doing the King's move, literally.
It just looks painful. It looks painful to try to straighten your arm out.
Well, you can pick your league. So 601, where is it happening? If it happens, July the 14th. Is it in California?
No, it is Chicago. Everything's in Chicago except the finals. The last transmission I got was 601 is still set the way it is, unless there's international travel bans. Then they're gonna have to try to find people from the States to do the matches, which doesn't affect Adam and myself because we're both. Doesn't affect Michael Todd, but it affects everybody else on the card. So maybe that's a Michael Todd Jerry.
Well,
I don't know.
But I mean, you're not gonna. It's not. Oh man, I hope Jerry's getting ready right now because I would hate it if it was, Michael Todd pulling Jerry and Jerry's had 2 weeks notice.
Right. Well, I listened to his podcast with Neil's show yesterday. I listened to that one, and he says he's ready and training, and so
yeah, the interesting
case scenario that they'll just get Americans, but then it's you kind of want to see the world. You want to see the Europeans. You want to see Australia. I mean, I think it'd be kind of boring if it's just Americans in it, but hey, it's arm wrestling. You know?
I'll still buy it. It's still interesting matches to me, but it's there's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of Americans still training. Yeah, a lot of guys doing their best to contract coronavirus because they think it's fake. All right, guys. What else you got, Gobby? We're at the hour mark. And he's frozen. Oh, there he is. He's moving very slowly. Gobby, you still there?
Yeah.
And away he goes.
Lost him.
And the show will probably end as it began with just you and I talking. What else do you want to cover, Jamie? We're pretty much on the downward slide here as far as the time goes, but anything else you want to cover before we go off? Oh, we lost Jamie too. Guys, it's just you and me. So let's hope we get Jamie back on the show here just quickly so we can say goodbye and wrap it up. But it's been another one. I'll talk a little bit while I'm waiting about next week's show. Tom Holland is coming on the show. So Arm Crossfire number 49 is Tom Holland. And then we have a special show for number 50 coming up. So I hope you guys all tune in for that. Luke Pulsher just talking about hunting Jamie down. Awesome. One thing I want to touch base with when we get Jamie back in, and here he is again. Hey, you made it back. We're still waiting on Gobby. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can't see you, but you can see me, right?
I can see you.
Okay, so, yeah, sorry about that. My laptop went out. That was weird.
So let me ask you a question before we sign off the air here.
Yeah.
How much arm wrestling do you intend to do outside of the league over the next year if things open back up?
It's a good question. I think I'll do whatever's local for sure. I'll be 40 this year, so I do have the intentions of attending, whichever world championship is still around when I'm pulling in the Masters, WAF, IFA, maybe both. I don't know. Who knows? But I'd like to attend at least one of those. I just can't see traveling to Europe right now. I've got the 3 little kids and a business that's growing, and I can't justify leaving for a week or two to go arm wrestle. The thing about WAL, I mean, yeah, they pay us and we get to go for a day or two, and that's it. But I do need to experience at least one world championship. Now, we have Vrej living an hour from us, so I get to feel that 165, 176, world champion strength, which is just unreal. But I mean, I think, and everybody says you got to go experience that environment at least once. So I'd like to do that while it's in Europe, not while it's here in the States, because I can go anywhere in the States and arm wrestle. I'd rather go to Europe to play Europeans and just experience it at least once. So in the future, in my 40s at some point. As far as the immediate the next couple years, whatever's local. If there's a national championship nearby, I'll go again. I went to the one in Anaheim last year at 187, where I won my first national title. Believe it or not, I've taken a lot of seconds. But I had to pull heavy. It was funny because Jeff said, "Hey, let's do a Darksiders thing. I'll do 165. Luke does one."
Oh, he dropped him off. Gobby, are you still with me?
I'm here, man.
Okay.
Jesus.
Well, I'm going to get Jamie back on, and we're going to wrap the show because it was amazing up until the last 5 minutes when everyone keeps dropping off.
Fuck.
Apparently, only the Central Plains in Canada has good internet connections right now.
I don't know, man. I was on Wi-Fi, it kicked me off. Then I went on just data, and I don't know what. There's a storm here, so maybe that's affecting it. But fuck, it's weird.
Most definitely it is.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if we get Jamie back here. His laptop went out, and then he went on his mobile. So, here we go. All right, we're back. All right, we're back.
On my phone, it's cutting out.
Well, why don't we wrap?
How far did I get?
You got to the part where you're doing the Darksiders thing.
Yeah, so I since I was sitting heavier already, I agreed to pull 187 pounds, and I was lucky enough to win a national title there. 176 was crazy because it was Luke and Corey, and that would be just an ugly. Well, I mean, you got 2 of the best in the country, so that was pretty cool. But I didn't mind going heavier to avoid those guys. And then you had Jeff and Alan in the 165s battling it out, so that was kind of cool. But I did win my first national title. So if there's another nationals nearby, I'll probably show up. Who knows what weight? Just kind of depends on what WAL has planned.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right on, man. Well, Jamie, we appreciate you coming on the show. And
thank you.
We wish you the best at WAL 601. I hope it happens. We'll definitely be watching. And Gobby, any closing thoughts? And Gobby's frozen.
You still there?
I'm still here. Gobby is frozen. He's in the middle of a storm where he is, so that's probably affected.
Having you on.
All right, Jamie, let's wrap it up, buddy. Anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
Hopefully Nat fits in Canada very soon. How about that?
I look forward to that.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, brother. We'll talk to you very soon, and we'll see you guys next week on the show.
Okay. Thanks, guys.